Chris Skelzer here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going apartment hunting. First off, we're going to head over to the UK and check in on an apartment that may be recently available because of some South Sudan refugees who recently made it to the country with someone or something else. And if things don't work out there, then we're going to jet set back over to the States and go over to LA and check out one bedroom. There's this apartment complex, Matt, that seemed to work really hard to build a community. Like, really hard. Then we'll do the delightful rundown of the big releases on physical media featuring your straight-to-DVD and streaming picks of the week. Then Matt and I will wrap up the big show by sharing our 5 favorite haunted house films not named The Shining. Wait, did you hear that? Don't turn around.
Annabeth has risen from the ocean. It has followed us here. It spoke to me.
What did it say?
We don't belong here. If we leave and repay our debt, it would guide us back to her. Trunyagak.
My love, she's gone. The sea took her.
You're not listening.
We survived. English.
Listen to what you are saying.
She's dead. Catch! It is book. We have grieved enough. Enough. There is no witch.
Well, Matt, okay, why don't you tell the fine folks at home, maybe expand upon what I said. His house, what is it all about? And also I want to point out that this was a Matt suggestion. Matt, usually I kind of corral everything we're going to discuss, and Matt will throw stuff in and out. So we'll see if that ended up working out to our enjoyment this week. So break it down, Matt. His house, what are your thoughts?
Oh man, the pressure. I can't wait to hear what Chris has to say, if I'm allowed to pick again or if I have to wait another 3 months. Okay, so his house is about a family of South Sudanese refugees who flee ethno-cleansing going on in their country to the UK. On the way to the UK, their apparent daughter, apparently drowns, on the way. And dealing with that, they are put into a relatively large house for refugees by themselves, and where they start to see ghosts of their daughter and other evil things demanding something of them.
That works. So what are your thoughts, Matt? I know this was you brought this one. I hadn't heard about this thing at all. It's currently available on Netflix. Do you think it was a wise decision to choose this film?
I do. I quite enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty creepy. I thought it was really well done within the confines of what it had to work with. I thought the actors were very believable. There's some serious social message in there. Now, granted, this is the UK. It's not the US, but we are cousins for a reason. And obviously, there is some things that translate into, I think, what is going on in the US right now as well. Overall, I was really pleased with it. It's really everything I could hope for from a kind of under-the-radar horror film.
All right, so let me share my thoughts. Matt, this is a shining example of the power of horror. All right, and all the great genre films are never really about what they pretend to be, right? This is set up as a kind of a haunted house film, hence our final segment, our 5 favorite haunted houses this week, or haunted house movies. And this is not only dealing, Matt, with the social commentary about how societies welcome or don't refugees, right? And then their own adjustment to a new land, fleeing from certain death to a community that perhaps doesn't want them much either at all. But it's also about the human condition and what we're willing to do just to stay alive. And I think it's exceptionally powerful and very well done. It is heartbreaking. It is scary. There were quite a few times, Matt, when I would be squirming in my seat on the couch, kind of waiting for what was going to come next, right? It's very well staged with its scares. It has some great solid jump scares. As we said recently, we're not against jump scares on this show. We just hate the lazy cat jumping out of the closet type scare, right? This one does this kind of stuff exceptionally well. because it works not just as a horror film, but as a treatise on PTSD, right? And then forgiveness, acceptance, and all these other subjects. And it is truly there's just truly some powerful and terrifying stuff in this film. I agree with you about our stars, Wunmi Mosaka and Sope Darusu. Much like the director as well, this I guess is his first feature, Remy Weekk. All of them turn in stellar work. And I really can't wait to see what Weekk does next. I mean, he really, to mix my metaphors, Matt, he hits it out of the park right out of the gate, right? And I mean, the guy doesn't even have a Wikipedia page yet. And I'm just really looking forward to see what he does next. I was just very smart, very well staged, very well crafted, great performances, really unnerving and high quality horror entertainment. I rather enjoyed it. So thank you, Matt, for bringing this to our attention.
I'm glad. Sometimes I know what I'm talking about. I mean, twice a year at least, I know what I'm doing.
What I love is that it plays with your emotions so successfully, right? And it has all these kind of dodges and weaves and reveals more to you, which adds layers of depth to the film as it plays out. Every time you think you have a grasp of what's really happening, it kind of slips away from you and introduces another kind of subject or theme or something that kind of throws you off again. It really, it's quite good.
Yeah, like you said, the depth of this thing is unusual for horror. You know, a lot of horror is really just the scares and the slashing and whatever else. This has several different layers to it, whether it's the kind of passive-aggressive judgment from people who seem to supposedly are there to help you and mean well, and really just going into deeper of like, what is it that you would do to survive kind of thing. And it really hits, a lot of this really hits with like, the force of a sledgehammer. So, I think it's probably one of the best, horror films we've seen in a while. Maybe one of the better ones. Well, maybe there's not a huge inventory, but one of the better ones we've seen for 2020 for sure.
Yeah, I like how it plays with time as well, right? I love how Weekk how he shifts temporally where we are and how effective it is, not just as revealing another horror, perhaps in a different place and time, but also keeping us kind of unsettled, right? And unmoored the whole time, which kind of adds to the suspense of the film. Really, it's just exceptionally well done stuff here, right out of the gate. I'm really impressed with this thing, Matt. I ended up giving his house an A-.
Yeah, I gave it a B+. I think it's quality horror entertainment that's available for your streaming pleasure on Netflix, which everybody has.
Exactly. You see they're raising prices again?
Doesn't surprise me. Doesn't really surprise me. I mean, it's what are you going to do, right?
That's true. We are kind of, and the way things have been turning lately, we're going to be stuck at home perhaps a little longer. We'll see.
Yeah, I know, right? Just wait until the cable companies, the TV packages and all that stuff goes away, and then they're just forced to, not only buy all this stuff plus their high-speed internet. It'd be great.
Jesus. All right. Bring out the guillotines. Matt, our apartment hunting trip will continue with Netflix in a little bit. But first off, let's tell you what's coming up on physical media this upcoming Tuesday, November 17th. Do you ever wonder what it'd be like if you got into a road rage incident with Russell Crowe? Well, here's your big chance to find out.
What do you want?
You got some messages. Got one from Dr. Miller. She wants to change your Friday therapy appointment. She better bring her A game, because you're gonna need it. Got one here from the principal of the Wesley Oaks Elementary School. Rachel, thank you for your hair and makeup for the Music Man production. Kyle was great in the quartet. Is that your son's name? Is that where he goes to school?
No way. Kyle's my friend's son. My son doesn't go to Wesley.
Rachel, I'm scrolling through the pictures on your phone. Don't be an idiot.
Don't you touch my son!
Wow, somehow Russell Crowe got this woman's phone. So this is Unhinged, Matt. Coming up on November 17th, the story of a mother who leans on her horn at the wrong time to the wrong guy. Played by Russell Crowe. Audio commentary with the director, cinematographer, production designer, and costume designer. A feature of the making of the film. I watched on YouTube a couple months ago, back before everything blew up, and this was going to play in the theaters, which it did. Let's actually get a theatrical release. Then Russell Crowe was doing one of those, I think it was with Esquire, it may have been GQ, going through all of his roles, and he talks a little bit about each one. They're fun little videos. A bunch of actors and have done them. and he talked about, Unhinged is not just a kind of a thriller. It's more about, humanity and how we talking about. All right, Russell, let's calm down. All right, let's pump the brakes. So either way, I still want to see this because I like me some Russell Crowe, especially when he's off the chain, so to speak, when he's kind of going over the edge. So maybe we'll check this out at some point. A film we did for the show earlier this year, Shout Factory is releasing Relic. This is a film about the couple who go, the mother and daughter who go to stay with their mother who's suffering from dementia, or perhaps something else is happening. The New Mutants, one of the last films we actually saw in the theaters, Matt, is coming out. At Best Buy, you get a steelbook. So here's the write-up, and I want to know if you knew anything about this. The story of the New Mutants, a team of mutant heroes comprised of the first graduates from Charles Xavier's school.
I don't know how they get there with that. I don't know. that's yeah. I have a problem with that write-up.
Well, first off, they're not at the school, right?
No,
that's the whole conceit of the film.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the hell, whoever wrote this thing up, I don't know what they're doing. It includes a Dolby Atmos audio track, interview with Bill Sienkiewicz, who I always called Sinkowicz for most of my life until I saw his Twitter handle, and his Twitter handle is actually how to say his name.
Okay.
But one of my favorite artists, whose work I didn't really appreciate until I was older. But now I like his stuff. And as well, Meet the New Mutants cast members, talk about their characters and some deleted scenes. Another movie, Matt, I want to catch up with, The Iron Mask, also known as Journey to China, The Mystery of the Iron Mask. This is the Jackie Chan, Arnold Schwarzenegger team-up film. Includes a featurette on the making of. Come on, it's Arnold.
Yeah, I know. I can't get over your absolute slavish devotion to Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, I don't quite understand it myself, but it does exist. The Broken Hearts Gallery, which also got a theatrical relief. A Broken Hearted New York Museum curator begins a collection of things connected to breakups and writes about it on her blog. Includes a gag reel. Words on Bathroom Walls from Lionsgate. A teenager coping with paranoid schizophrenia hopes his new experimental drug treatment will help him navigate high school and the outside world. Gemma Arterton stars in Summerland from IFC. A woman during World War II opens her heart to an evacuee after initially resolving to be rid of him. Shudder releases Monstrum. Yoon Gwam is a loyal subject of the King Jong-jung of Joseon. He struggles to fight against a monster that threatens King Jong-jung's life, and a group of people try to depose the king. Lionsgate is releasing Death of Me. Vacationing on an island off the coast of Thailand, Christine and Neil Oliver awake hungover with no memory of the previous night. They find footage on Neil's camera and watch, horrified, as Neil appears to murder Christine. Within 24 hours until the next ferry and a typhoon threatening the island, Christine and Neil attempt to reconstruct the night's events and are snared in a web of mystery, black magic, and murder. New to Blu-ray, Criterion is releasing Ghost Dog, Way of the Samurai, Jim Jarmusch's film, with Forrest Whitaker. Gets a brand new 4K restoration. I remember when this came out, Matt, I didn't go see it. I thought, this looks ridiculous. Forrest Whitaker as a samurai hitman? Come on. I have never seen it, but I hear it's actually very, very good. And of course, I've come to grow and appreciate Jarmusch's film. That was just me, dumb Chris in the 90s, not knowing what the hell he was talking about. Unlike now. Brand new Q&A with Jarmusch. A new conversation with Forrest Whitaker and some of the other stars. Interview with the casting director, some deleted scenes, outtakes, and more. Criterion is also releasing Moonstruck, with a brand new 4K restoration of the Cher classic film with Nicolas Cage. Includes new interviews with the screenwriter, as well as a film scholar about the use of opera in the film. Ports over an introduction from Cher from 2013, as well as some archival interviews from 1987 and 2002, and more. Arrow is releasing Silent Running. Botanist Freeman Lowell has spent 8 years aboard the space freighter Valley Forge, preserving the only botanical specimens left from Earth. Under huge geodesic, is that how you say that? Geodesic domes?
Mm-hmm.
When he receives orders to destroy the project and return home, Lowell rebels and hijacks the freighter, killing his fellow crewmen, injuring himself, and plunging the craft into the gaseous rings of Saturn. From that moment on, he only has the trees, the gardens, and 2 drone robots, Huey and Dewey, to keep him company on the greatest adventure of all. You ever seen Silent Running? I have not.
No, I haven't seen it either.
Brand new 2K restoration of this from Arrow. Brand new commentary by critics Kim Newman and Barry Forshaw. An original audio commentary featuring Douglas Trumbull and actor Bruce Dern. And here's a featurette called First Run. So maybe we'll have to pick it up just for that. and the first pressing includes an illustrated collector's booklet featuring new writing on the film. Arrow UK is releasing Abel Ferreira's classic King of New York. This is the Chris Walken film where he's the drug kickman that gets out of jail and tries to restart his life. Now, it's a UK release, but it's 4K, folks. And as you all know, 4K discs are region-free, so you can import them from anywhere. There's also Dolby Vision included with that restoration, audio commentary by Ferreira, audio commentary with the composer, producer, casting director, and editor, interview with Ferreira, and more. A bunch of stuff on this. So if you're a fan of King of New York, I have this on DVD, Matt, and I have not... God, I can't remember the last time I watched it, but I remember really liking it. Mill Creek is releasing Hammer, the Ultimate Collection. If you love your British horror films like I do, these classic horror films from Hammer are being released in a set. The Revenge of Frankenstein, The Camp on Blood Island, The Snorkel, Yesterday's Enemy, The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll, Never Take Candy from a Stranger, The Stranglers of Bombay, The Terror of the Tongs, Cash on Demand, Scream of Fear, Stop Me Before I Kill, These Are the Damned, The Pirates of Blood River, The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, The Old Dark House, Maniac, The Gorgon, The Devil's Ship Pirates, Die, Die, My Darling, and Creatures the World Forgot. A 12-page movie and feature guide booklet included, a bunch of featurettes and retrospectives as well, audio commentaries, and more. Resident Evil, the complete collection, the 4K set, all films presented in HDR10 on Dolby Atmos immersive audio. Couldn't find any new features, Matt, included, but if you're a Resident Evil fan and you want to get these bad bears in 4K, now you can pick them up in a set. Mill Creek is also releasing the Rita Hayworth collection. Includes Music in My Heart, You'll Never Get Rich, Tonight and Every Night, Down to Earth, The Lady from Shanghai, The Loves of Carmen, Affair in Trinidad, Salome, Miss Sadie Thompson, Fire Down Below, Pal Joey, and They Came to Cardura. Shout Factory is releasing, oh, look who's back, Twins, featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. 2 new interviews on the making of the film. Arrow is releasing a standard definition of the Italian, how would I describe it, kind of possession. Basically, it's an Exorcist ripoff. Beyond the Door. The first one came in a nice slipcase with a book and stuff. All that stuff's gone. As well as you lose the documentary that was part of the Italian possessions. The whole documentary about Italian, horror films. And then Rio Grande. Is it Grande? The Rio Grande. I'm going to go with that. From
Sure.
Olive. John Ford's film featuring John Wayne. It's a brand new high-definition digital restoration. And then what else is coming out? There's a Warner Archive release of some Hitchcock films. Some older ones. Dial M for Murder, I Confess, The Wrong Man. The original version, not the remake. And then Suspicion. Pink Floyd is releasing Delicate Sound of Thunder on Blu-ray. This is restored, re-edited, and remixed. I think it's got like 6 or 7 more songs that were cut from the original release. And then there is a steelbook release of It's a Wonderful Life in 4K. The It's a Wonderful Life 4K disc was previously released, and I think it's like $13 right now on Amazon. I'm seriously considering upgrading my Blu-ray of this because I absolutely adore this film. Plus, I'd get a digital copy as well. But the colored version is only going to be included on the Blu-ray. So if the 4K will just be the black and white version and will not include the colorized version, but you do get the Blu-ray as part of the set. Your straight-to-DVD pick of the week, Matt, is The Execution Squad. Action director William Lee, Black Mamba, I guess that's what he goes by, is back with a controversial action thriller about a government conspiracy involving the mysterious events surrounding Hurricane Katrina. Was there anything mysterious about Hurricane Katrina? When inner-city inhabitants begin to kill each other at an alarming rate, former CIA agent Daniel Kane begins to realize it's not all just coincidence, Matt. A plot to drug mass populations of poor and impoverished people is revealed as a genocidal plot to bring a modern-day Holocaust. Along the way, Keen meets Dr. Kamara, the inventor of the deadly chemical. Is she a homicidal maniac? Is she a friend, an enemy, a spy? Cross, double-cross, and plot twists combined with William Lee's John Woo-influenced fight scenes will keep you guessing until the end. The Execution Squad may hold the key to a government out to change history by its own rules. I always said, Matt, if we ever did a Patreon thing, we should watch the straight-to-DVD films and review them as part of that. I would like to watch The Execution Squad.
Well, we did do that Z movie marathon. You remember how bad that was? How not a good time that was.
Zombies was a lot of fun. I remember that one.
Yeah, Zombies was good, but the problem is most of these things are probably, you're hoping they're so bad they're good, whereas most of the time they're just bad.
That's true. What should we be streaming this week?
All right, so I kind of struggled with this because I'm trying not to repeat myself too much. So I thought I'd maybe go outside of maybe Chris and I's comfort zone into somebody else's, maybe what they would like to watch. So I'm going to recommend Easy A, starring Emma Stone. It's a loose adaptation of The Scarlet Letter, where a slut-shamed teen in high school decides that, you know what, she's going to lean into the reputation and use it for all it's worth. If you're a fan of Clueless, which is an Emma ripoff, or 10 Things I Hate About You, which is a Taming of the Shrew ripoff, maybe this is right up for you if you're a fan of light teen comedies.
I love Easy A, and Stanley Tucci is a blast in that film. Mm-hmm. So, that's a great pick, Matt. Good choice. All right, folks, let's keep rolling then, and let's get back to apartment hunting and see what's going on in this little one bedroom in L.A.
Hey, did you have a good time?
Yeah. I still can't believe I got it out of all those people. What?
I might have put in a good word with Jerry. All I did is tell him what you did for Miss Stanhope.
Does she have family?
Just us. And we all kind of take care of each other here.
I love that. LA can be so...
lonely.
I should go unpacking.
Of course. Well, good night, neighbor.
Good night, neighbor.
That sounds positively delightful. Matt, no pets. So 1BR, which of course is abbreviation for one bedroom, is a mystery kind of thriller horror film starring Nicole Bryden Bloom. She plays Sarah, a young woman who has just recently moved to LA, kind of trying to start her own life, right? Has some issues with her father, and she gets her application accepted to lease this one bedroom apartment in this delightful little community. Except there's something much more nefarious afoot. Matt, what are your thoughts on one bedroom? I'm going to tell you, I think this may have been a rock-solid anthology segment for a film. I don't know if there's enough here to at least sustain my interest for the 90-plus minutes here. I felt there was no real particular style to it, right? Everything kind of just presented very straightforwardly and unremarkable. It's not without its moments. I think it has a couple good scares and unnerving moments, and it has some interesting ideas that it plays with. It's not I don't know if how much we want to reveal, but I'll just say I think this is pretty understood that it's not your traditional kind of cult genre fare, because this one focuses more on the community and not so much on worshiping like a particular individual, right? But when I know that a film like The Invitation exists, which is just a fantastic film if you haven't seen it, this is kind of solid entertainment, but I guess that's the best I can say. Maybe. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that was really my main comment to this. I mean, I liked this film when it was called The Invitation, when it was done much better, even right down to the final scene, is lifted straight from that. But, this has elements of things like Martyrs Light, or Martyrs Very, Very Late, The Invitation. And like Chris said, it doesn't have a lot of style. The acting performances are middling to not great in a lot of cases. The kind of overall pacing of the thing just seems off. Like when the turn came, I was surprised at how quickly in the film that actually was. I had to pause for a second to see how far into the film I was, and there was still like an hour to go. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I agree with you. This could have probably benefited from being a lot shorter, maybe a solid short film or a segment in an anthology, but you're right. This thing just doesn't really work. It has some okay moments. I think that's as far as I can get with it, but it's not anything that I would ultimately urge people to go see. It's unfortunately a forgettable movie.
Yeah, it's fine. It's unremarkable, I think is the best way I could put it, like we said. And again, if you can see The Invitation instead, watch that. Karen Kurosawa's film is just really unnerving and terrifying. And even though I still waver a little bit about the final scene on it. It doesn't really work for me as much as I think it does for other people. Still, that's exceptional. This one, it's okay. I ended up giving One Bedroom a C+.
That's exactly what I gave it.
Hey.
Wow, look at us. Hey. So
Hey,
that's the correct answer. C+. We both do it.
Yeah, The Invitation is still available on Netflix right now, so you can go and check that out as well. What are your thoughts on One Bedroom? I don't know if I asked you about His House either. What are your thoughts on both of these films? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Man, I'm like clockwork with that, man. I totally dropped the ball. Whew, it's been an off day. But let's close everything out, Matt, with us sharing our 5 favorite haunted house films. Not named The Shining, or for me, Poltergeist as well. So here's a little bit of an homage.
Hi, Lloyd. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Mr. Torrance. What'll it be?
I'm awfully glad you asked me that, Lloyd. Because I just happen to have 2 20s and 2 10s right here in my wallet. I was afraid they were going to be there till next April. So here's what. You slip me a bottle of bourbon, a little glass, and some ice. You can do that, can't you, Lloyd? You're not too busy, are you?
No, sir. I'm not busy at all.
Good man. You set him up and I'll knock him back, Lloyd. One by one.
Of course, as Jack Nicholson and Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Possibly the greatest horror film of all time. Sorry, The Exorcist, though I go back and forth between that and The Thing. But man, that thing is awesome. So, Matt, I also excised, as I said in the beginning, Poltergeist. I just think they're both so obvious a pick for haunted houses that they just were just layups for me. And in fact, I don't really think mine are in any particular order. As I was going through them, I have a bunch, and I think these 5 were my favorite, but I can't really put them into an order, like a 5 through 1, you know? So,
I hear you.
Why don't you go first? I went first last time. Start us off.
Okay.
What do you got?
I kind of went back and forth. Mine are not really in any order either. I was going to leave this off just because we had talked about it a lot, or at least we had talked about it, I think, during the Halloween time period. But I'm going to put in Ouija Origin of Evil, which we've talked a lot about, or I've mentioned quite a few times in the past few weeks. But essentially, it's about a family who the mother runs a medium business where she's scamming people. She brings in a Ouija board into the house, and her daughter actually inadvertently opens a doorway and lets something in. For a PG-13 horror film, it's very, very creepy. It's very, very effective. And it's way better than it has any right to be. I was going to put in Sinister in place of this, but ultimately I like this better than Sinister.
Sinister's pretty good too. What's the one with Patrick Wilson?
The Conjuring?
No, the other one with Patrick Wilson.
Oh, Insidious.
I think Insidious is really good too, but
yeah.
Is that more of a possession than it is a haunt? That's more of a possession.
Yeah, it's
film
more of a
house,
possession
right?
film, I think. Yeah.
All right. So my number 5-ish, I guess, is William Castle's original 1959 film House on Haunted Hill. Vincent Price plays an eccentric rich dude, and he is convinced basically that his wife is plotting to kill him. So he sets up this elaborate night where all these people have to stay in this stay in this house. And if they survive the night and they leave the next morning, they'll get $10,000. And it's all kind of a way for him to ferret out what's really happening. All these people seem like they have nothing in common, but perhaps they do. And it does rely on, overly so, on these kind of classic things, these skeletons, the scary woman who kind of just glides through the room. Right? It has all these iconic moments from horror films. But it's still a lot of fun. And it still is, to this day, actually, is pretty damn creepy. It's a tight 75 minutes, Matt. So it's well worth checking it out if you haven't. It is in the public domain, actually. And it is currently on Amazon Prime. So if you wanted to remake it, Matt, I guess you could.
All right.
But
check it on that.
We're on it. House on Haunted Hill, though, I guess that's my number 5. Just a lot of fun.
Yeah. That is a classic film. So my number 4 is Oculus. Now I kind of went back and forth because it's kind of like a more of a possessed item kind of thing, but I think it counts.
It's a haunted mirror.
Well, close enough, I think. It's in a house. You can't have a haunted mirror that's not in a house, right? But essentially, it stars Karen Gillan, or Gillian, as a young woman who is convinced that a evil presence that is bound to a mirror in her house is responsible for all of the tragedy that has befallen her family, and she's determined to clear her brother's name of a crime by proving that to the proper authorities. Really creepy film, kind of flew under the radar. I think it has a certainly devoted following and a very small cult, but it is something that I think people should check out.
So it's the first Mike Flanagan film that I saw was Oculus. And I was like, it's a mirror. It's just like Amityville bad stuff, right? When they started churning out all the haunted objects.
Sure.
And I'm thinking, there's no way this is going to be good. And it's actually very effective. If you haven't seen Oculus, it is very good. Much scarier than you think it would be. I think from there we saw Hush. Maybe I'm reversing that order, but we really enjoyed Hush. I think we actually did that one for the show as well. So, yeah, we're big fans, obviously, of Flanagan's work. Of course, he did Gerald's Game on Netflix, which is quite good. And then, of course, I think the great Dr. Sleep, though I still haven't watched the director's cut, which is supposed to be even better. So I got to get around to that. All right, Matt. My number 4 then is Takashi Shimizu's Ju-On, The Grudge. Remember the first time I saw this? This is, of course, I guess I'm going to be talking about the Sarah Michelle Gellar film. Because I don't know if, I think I saw the original at some point, but I can't remember. So I guess I have to go with the US remake, which is disappointing in me. But it scared the absolute hell out of me when I watched this thing. This was my first real exposure to the new wave of Japanese horror. And it's just creepy as hell. To this day, I still get goosebumps, when you hear that. But it's really echoey and just very, very, very good. Just if you're not familiar, of course, just with this house where this murder took place, and these vengeful ghosts are basically stalking the people who enter the house and kill them. And it is very good. And I probably should really go with the original over... I feel like I need to rewatch it because I don't remember it as much, but I remember being absolutely terrified by it. So we'll do that. Either way, Matt, the original 2002 Japanese version of the US remake. Pick one. They're both very good.
Yeah. I haven't seen the Japanese original, and I haven't seen the US remake in a long, long time. I remember I wasn't super impressed with it because I was really high on The Ring at that point, which was kind of like the first introduction to all that kind of stuff. But maybe I should go back and revisit it and see if I still feel the same way.
For sure. What's the other one? There's a couple of them too that are really good that actually may have been Korean, with the one with the shutter with the camera that shows what's that one's really good as well. But yeah, so go ahead. Number 3 for you.
All right. So my number 3 is a film that Chris and I have talked about many times. It's The Orphanage, a Spanish film about a family who moves back into the wife's or the mother's home that she grew up in, which was an orphanage, and she plans on updating it and turning it into a home for disabled children. Her son, is walking the grounds, they quickly come to find out that maybe they're not alone, and maybe the previous residents might still be there. Super creepy. If you think kids can be creepy, this is your film. This is gonna just make your skin crawl watching this thing. And there's just some very effective, bloodless scares in this that are just absolutely fantastic. It's something I can't recommend enough. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, actually, I had this slotted in at my number 1, so I'll bring it up now as well. I wholly endorse The Orphanage. I saw this with friend of the show, Carrie, who the one thing she hates the most in horror films is scary kids. So she was very upset with me after we walked out of this one. But I went down to the Criterion Theater in New Haven, Matt, to see this. It was the only place it was playing, I think, at the time. And it freaked me the hell out. And it's still effective to this day. Produced by Guillermo del Toro. And it's just fantastic little Spanish horror film. It's a great pick. What do you got next?
Okay. All right, so my number 2 is that other Patrick Wilson film that we mentioned earlier, is The Conjuring, James Wan's spooky ghost story universe that is kind of blown up out of this particular film. But the original, I think, is actually pretty good. It's loosely based off of the, let's say, true life, air quotes, exploits of the Warrens, a husband and wife team of paranormal investigators on one of their earliest cases investigating a haunted house. just for the clap game alone in this, that end of the clap game literally made my heart jump up into my throat. It's extremely effective. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of diminishing returns in the Conjuring universe, but the first one is still pretty rock solid for a haunted house film.
I agree entirely. We'll see what comes up with this next one. I guess they are making another one, but that last one made me so angry when it was built. It wasn't even the Conjuring 3, right? It was an offshoot, another one of the what a disaster that thing was. So my number 2 then is a film that, how do you I don't even know how to describe this movie. It's from 1977 from Nobinki Obayashi. It is Hausu, also known as House, where a young woman who is her father has this new, I think she's a new young wife who she doesn't like, so she goes to stay with her aunt who is ailing, and she brings a bunch of her school friends with her to go visit the aunt. And the house is, something's happening. It's consuming them one by one in some capacity. There's a painting of a cat that kind of comes to life. There's a disembodied head that floats. I mean, it is the most badass, insane film I can remember seeing in recent years, and I absolutely love it. Actually released by the Criterion Collection here domestically in the U.S. I don't know if it's on the channel right now. It might be, but I adore Hausu. It is just insane and a lot of fun. I don't know, Matt, if I could ever really call it scary, but it's an experience, and it's one of my favorite haunted house films.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it scary either, but man, that film is wild. That is just a weird film. You have really got to be in the right headspace. And honestly, anybody out there who thinks they're going to, take something mind altering and watch it, that is a bad idea. Do not do that. This is a crazy, crazy film. All right. So my number 1, I kind of went back and forth on this, but then I said, you know what, screw it, it's my list. So I'm going to put 1979's Haunted House in Space, Alien, as the best haunted house film put to celluloid, or at least my favorite. Essentially, you should know the story by now, that a film of a crew of space truckers lands on a derelict planet where they bring back an alien-infested crew member. It bursts forth from his chest and then slowly picks them off one by one, and their cavernous, chain-infested, water dripping everywhere for some reason ship that has no good lighting anywhere except in the kitchen. It's really just a study in suspense and just not having things be scarier just by what you don't show, just glimpses and sounds, and just by the very fact that there's nowhere to go. Outside is the cold vastness of space, and you're trapped in there with something that wants to do you harm, and that's incredibly effective. It's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, it likely would have been my number 1, but I left it off. I've always said for years that Alien basically is a haunted house movie in space, but I left it off my list. It's listed as an honorable mention with an asterisk as well, just because of that. So then I guess my last one will be Peter Medic's The Changeling with George C. Scott. He is a composer and he's going to vacation with his wife and daughter, and there's a horrible car accident and they both die, and he moves to Seattle in this old house to kind of reset, right, and start his life over again, except there's something else there in the house. And it's considered one of the great horror films. It's a Canadian film, but it had a big influence on films for years to come. It is just a perfect example of just atmosphere and ambiance and creepiness and unsettling, and it's exceptionally well crafted. If you haven't seen The Changeling, I highly recommend it. That one scene, that's the famous one, is the ball coming down the steps as he's in the door, in the foyer, I guess, if you will. It is really creepy as all hell. So that's why I had The Changeling on my list. Anything not make the cut for you?
So I initially disagreed with it, and also I just like to point out, we're here filming right now. Mrs. First Run keeps walking by the doors back there, so it's really interesting to see, we're talking about haunted house films, and this flash just moves past every time Chris is talking. So I was going to include Poltergeist on my list. I as much of it is as it is a layup, at the same time, I don't feel like Poltergeist has as much of a hold on the popular opinion. It almost seems like it's kind of disappeared by other things, whereas The Shining, I think, is always on everybody's list. I think, I don't know, I feel like people don't really know about Poltergeist, so I recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. And then obviously, I alluded to it earlier, Sinister is a great, nasty little demon-infested house film that's really quite unsettling.
It's in a possessed projector or film, isn't it? Technically,
yeah, it's kind of like The Ring. I think it's like once you watch the film, then you've opened yourself to the demon to come get you, kind of thing.
That is very good as well. Yeah, Poltergeist is, I think, currently on Netflix, and it wasn't streaming for a while anywhere, but I believe it is available to stream on Netflix right now. What else would we have? I had The Conjuring, The Sixth Sense. I guess, is that a haunted house film?
Yeah, sure, we can go that way.
Paranormal Activity, one of the big first found footage movies. Crimson Peak, for all of its flaws, one of them chiefly being Charlie Hunnam. I still enjoy it. The Devil's Backbone, Guillermo del Toro, probably should have been in my list. And the original version of The Haunting, not the one with Liam Neeson and Catherine Zeta-Jones.
There you go. How could you forget?
And Owen Wilson. Whoa. No, that's more of a Keanu thing. What was Owen's?
That is. Isn't it Wow? Wow.
Yeah. I'll tell you as well. All right, Matt. Shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. What are your favorite haunted house films? We'd love to hear from you. Next week, we're listed as Mank, which is Fincher's new film, hits Netflix this Friday, and Trial of the Chicago 7. So we'll see how that shakes out. I don't know if you want to talk about it at all, but Freaky gets released to the theaters this Friday.
It does? Okay.
By the guy who did Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, which we both enjoyed. And I really want to see that, but I'm also terrified right now with the state of the virus.
Yeah, it's getting worse here.
So I don't know. We'll have to talk about that. So either Mank or Freaky and Mank or Mank and Chicago 7 or something else entirely. It'll be a surprise for you and us. In the meantime, check us out at thefirstrun.com. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Do a search for The First Run. Eventually you'll find us. I changed it up. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. It'll help other people find the show. We will read it on the air as well. And that's it, folks. Stay safe. We're going to take an extended break, and we will see you all soon. Take care. Did you hear me hit my metal trash can there?
Yes, I did.
There you go.
Merry Christmas, movie house!